Lesson 4, Clasped Warp. This is the Epically Creative Weaving course, Module 3B, and in this lesson you're going to learn what a clasped warp is and how to warp a clasped warp, as well as some ideas for weaving a clasped warp. My name is Amy D. McKnight, and I will be guiding you through this lesson. All right, so what is a clasped warp? In Module 2, we learned about clasped weft and saw all that we could do with interlocking threads in the weft. Now we're going to take it a step further and use a similar method to achieve that same effect in the warp. We most often use the direct warping method in rigid heddle loom weaving as it lends itself to this method beautifully. I will be using the heddle that the loom came with, and depending on which loom I'm weaving on, that might be a 7.5, 8, or a 10-dent heddle. I'm also using lace weight yarn. How to warp a clasped warp. We're going to go through what we normally do when we're setting up our looms and warping. You want to decide on the desired length and width of your piece. You're going to mark the width in your heddles with some waste yarn. Now, you're going to need at least 2 sources of yarn, either a ball or a cone or something. The blue one is on the floor behind the loom, and then you're going to need another one that's in front of your heddle. The pink one is on the table in front of the loom. You're going to be pulling loops through both the slots in the hole, so that when you're finished warping your loom, you're just going to need to wind on and you're done. We learned about this in Module 1 in the, I think we did this on the Cricut. Yes. So we're going to tie color A, which is the blue, to the back apron rod, and we're going to tie color B, which is the pink, to the warping peg or the end of your warping path on your warping board. We're going to pull a loop of color A through the first slot. So we're pulling the loop as normal through the first slot. And we're going to bring color B up to meet color A's loop, and we're going to put it through the loop. See how that is going? We passed the color through the loop. And we're going to bring color B down and around the warp to the warping peg, following the path as if we were using if you're using a warping board or the hybrid method. If you're just using a direct warp with a straight peg, just take it all the way back down. And we're going to go back up like normal and pull another loop through the next hole. So if we start with a slot, you're going to do it through the next hole because we're doing all of the slots and holes at the same time. All right, that's important. You're not doing your slots and then your holes. You're doing your slots and your holes. You're threading them both at the same time using doubled threads. Let's do it again. We're going to bring color B up to meet color A's loop. That's what it looks like again. And then we're going to bring color B down and around to the warping peg. Follow the warping path if you're using a warping board with the hybrid method. We're going to repeat this across. Here are some tips for weaving a clasped warp. You can adjust the tension by gently pulling either of the colors. And you can vary the length of the warped section by making color A's loops a little bit longer or shorter. If you want to change either color, simply tie off at the back apron rod or on the warping board or warping peg as needed. And once you're finished, wind your warp onto the back beam and tie the front using your favorite tying on method. Here are some ideas for weaving a clasped warp. To accentuate the clasped warp, you can use a single color as the weft. Use one of the colors that you use so that it's kind of neat. It kind of pops out the contrasting color. Or use a different complementary or contrasting color. You'll find an over my shoulder video of me warping after this lesson. It will be labeled Clasped Warp. All right, y'all, so in this lesson, you learn what a clasped warp is, how to warp a clasped warp, and some ideas for weaving a clasped warp. Take action now. I want you to warp and weave along with me as I create a fabric with a clasped warp. Download and print out the planning in the warp game board and fill it out as you go. The link is in the description. Hashtag creative weaving warp for those of you who love to do that type of thing. Join me in my weaving community. This is the best way to get support with this and all the other things that we're learning. We actually have a special group just for what we're learning in this particular module, and we'd love to have you join us in the group. All right, y'all, thank you so much for watching. Please leave a comment below this video, subscribe to the channel, ring the notification bell, and share the video. In the next lesson, you're going to learn what color and weave is, how to warp for houndstooth pattern, and how to warp for the log cabin pattern. So exciting! Can't wait to see you in that next video. Bye!